Hello and welcome back to our channel where we try to present historical facts from another perspective. Don't forget to subscribe for more history lessons. Each subscriber means a lot for the development of the YouTube channel. The Battle of Stalingrad. Today we will continue to present one of the bloodiest battles of the Second World War, the Battle of Stalingrad. The last video ends before the beginning of Operation Uranus, a death trap imagined by Stavka in order to encircle the pride of the German army, the Sixth Army led by General von Paulus from the vicinity of Stalingrad. Uranus Operation. In November 1942, the Soviet Union launched the Uranus Operation, which was a counterattack against German forces. The Soviet Union attacked the German forces from the rear, cutting off their supply lines and trapping them in the city. This was a turning point in the battle, and the Germans were not able to recover from this setback. Operation Uranus was the code name of operation on the Eastern Front carried by the Soviet Red Army between 19 to November 23, 1942, with a strategic role in World War II, and which led to the encirclement of Axis forces in the vicinity of Stalingrad, the German Sixth Army, the Third and Fourth Romanian Armies, and portions of the German Fourth Panzer Army. The Red Army carried out the operation at roughly the midpoint of the 5-month-long Battle of Stalingrad, aiming to destroy German forces in and around Stalingrad. Planning for Operation Uranus commenced in September 1942 and developed simultaneously with plans to envelop and destroy the German Army Group Center, Operation Mars, and German forces in the Caucasus. If you would like to see a video about Operation Mars, feel free to write a comment in the comment section, and we will make a video that will present the failed attempt of the Red Army to encircle the Army Group Center in 1942. The beginning of the operation. At 7:20 Moscow time on November 19, Soviet forces assaulted the northern flank of the Axis forces at Stalingrad. Attacks in the south began the next day. Although the Romanian units succeeded in repelling the first Soviet attacks, by the end of November 20 the 3rd and 4th Romanian armies were in a headlong retreat, as the Red Army bypassed several German infantry divisions. German mobile reserves proved too weak to parry the Soviet mechanized spearheads, while the Sixth Army did not react quickly or decisively enough to disengage German armored forces in Stalingrad and reorient them to counter the impending threat. By late November 22, the northern and southern Soviet forces linked up at the town of Kalach, encircling some 290,000 Axis personnel east of the Don River. Instead of attempting to break out of the encirclement, German leader Adolf Hitler decided to keep Axis forces in Stalingrad and resupply them by air. The Red Army allocated an estimated 1,100,000 personnel, 800 tanks, 13,400 artillery pieces, and over 1,000 aircraft for the upcoming offensive. Across the 3rd Romanian Army, the Soviets placed the redeployed 5th Tank Army, as well as the 21st and 65th Armies, in order to penetrate and overrun the German flanks. The German southern flank was targeted by the Stalingrad Front's 51st and 57th Armies, led by the 13th and 4th Mechanized Corps. These would punch through the 4th Romanian Army, in order to link up with the 5th Tank Army near the town of Kalach. In total, the Soviets had amassed 11 armies and various independent tank brigades and corps. The encirclement of the Sixth Army was effective on November 23. Operation Uranus trapped between 250,000 and 300,000 Axis soldiers within an area stretching 50 kilometers from east to west and 40 kilometers north to south. The pocket contained 4 infantry corps, a panzer corps belonging to the 4th Panzer and 6th Armies, and surviving elements of 2 Romanian divisions, a Croatian infantry regiment, and other specialist units. Trapped equipment included around 100 tanks, 2,000 artillery pieces and mortars, and 10,000 trucks. The Sixth Army, in the midst of chaos, began to build defensive lines, hampered by the lack of fuel, ammunition, and rations, and further burdened by the advancing Russian winter. The personnel trapped in Stalingrad would require at least 680 tons of supplies per day, a task that the depleted Luftwaffe was in no condition to carry out. Furthermore, the revived Red Air Force was a threat to German aircraft attempting to fly over the encirclement. Although by December the Luftwaffe had assembled a fleet of around 500 aircraft, this was still insufficient to supply the Sixth Army and elements of the 4th Panzer Army with the required supplies. During the first half of December, the Sixth Army received less than 20% of their daily requirements. Operation Winter Storm. In late November 1942, the Red Army had completed Operation Uranus, encircling some 300,000 Axis personnel in and around the city of Stalingrad. German forces within the Stalingrad pocket and directly outside were reorganized, November 22, 1942, into Army Group Don and placed under the command of Field Marshal Erich von Manstein. The Red Army continued to allocate as many resources as possible to the planned Operation Saturn to isolate Army Group A from the rest of the German army. To remedy the situation, for more interesting videos about history. Back to action. Would fight on or take his own life. Nevertheless, when Soviet forces closed in on Paulus headquarters the next day, Paulus surrendered. The remnants of the German forces in Stalingrad surrendered on February 2. 91,000 tired, ill, and starving Germans were taken captive. To the delight of the Soviet forces and the dismay of the Third Reich, the prisoners included 22 generals. Hitler was furious at the field marshal's surrender and confided that Paulus stood at the doorstep of eternal glory but made an about-face. A terrible death toll. More than 500,000 Soviets died in the Battle of Stalingrad, including many civilians. This was due to Stalin's refusal to evacuate non-combatants throughout the conflict. More than 40,000 people were killed in German air raids in the first days of the fighting. Many of the 75,000 civilians who remained in Stalingrad before the German surrender died of starvation and hypothermia. It is estimated that between 150,000 and 2. Conclusion. The Battle of Stalingrad became a turning point in the war, as the Soviet Union was able to turn the tide and push the German army back. One of the key factors that contributed to the failure of Operation Blue was the overextension of German forces, which were stretched thin across a vast area. This made it difficult to maintain supply lines and adequately support the advancing troops. The Soviet Union was also able to launch a successful counterattack, which cut off the German army's supply lines and forced them to retreat. In conclusion, Operation Blue was a major military campaign launched by Nazi Germany on the Eastern Front during World War II. The operation was aimed at securing the oil fields in the Caucasus and cutting off the Soviet Union's major industrial centers. Although the German army made significant progress initially, the campaign ultimately failed due to logistical and supply problems, as well as fierce resistance from the Soviet Union. The Battle of Stalingrad, which occurred as part of Operation Blue, became a turning point in the war and marked the beginning of the Soviet Union's counterattack on the Eastern Front. If you liked the video, help us with a like and a subscribe. It means a lot for the development of this YouTube channel. Thank you very much and see you next time.